My name is Christina McClellan, and I'm a woman at Iowa.
The Chief Curator at the University of Iowa
Marin,
Museum of Art, and I'm a woman at Iowa.
Gigi Durham. I'm an associate professor in the School of Journalism, and I'm a woman at Iowa.
Welcome to the third season of Women at Iowa, which explores the work, experience, and history of the remarkable women on the University of Iowa campus. I'm your host, Jessica Danca. Today, our guest on today's show is Kim Painter, who is the Johnson County Recorder and was the academic advisor of the College of Business and the assistant registrar at the University of Iowa. Kim, thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks, Jessica. Thanks for having me.
I know that you got your bachelor's at the University of Iowa with honors in English and a minor in Italian. Had you always wanted to be a Hawkeye?
Well, my older sister had moved here to Iowa City, and she was at the time in nursing, and I knew that I wanted to continue my education. I had always identified myself as a writer, and so I knew that I wanted to come to Iowa City and be a participant in the writer's workshop on some level. And so I did move here and became a member of the undergraduate workshop in poetry and fiction while I pursued my English degree. So in that sense, I always wanted to be a Hawkeye writer, and I certainly grew up in a football town, so yes.
What was your initial career goal when choosing your major?
Well, again, I always identified as a writer, so I focused on the study of literature. I felt I had to kind of steep myself in all the best words that had been written so far in order to try to do the best that I could do. And that was really my goal when I came here. I was a very young person, and so I came here and kind of fell into professional careers after that fact, after those studies were completed, as I think many people do.
You were for the Daily Iowan. How did the experiences shape who you are today?
That was an amazing period of time because on this campus, it's such a vital place to live and to work. And so at the time I wrote for the DI, I was also working as a University of Iowa employee through that whole time, which is a unique kind of exposure. I mean, your bosses see your words that are in there every week. I was in on Monday for a long time. And I did not ever pull any punches. And I wrote very political pieces, very personal pieces. I was open about being gay and open about my political feelings. And that created interesting situations. It was a great experience and a great learning experience to have that kind of exposure, to have people come up to you and talk to you about your columns that you had written. I learned a lot from that time, and I'm really thankful for having had that opportunity.
What were some of the things that you had put in some of your articles that were more open-minded and more out there?
Well, some of them I look back on and cringe a little bit about some of the things that I wrote. And other things I think, hey, those were pretty good. I did write about same-sex marriage fairly early on when Bonnie Campbell was running for governor. I wrote about issues during the various administrations of George Bush the Elder, and there were certainly some things I did not care for that had been going on. I wrote some controversial columns about free speech rights as applies to pornographic material. There were some interesting and very controversial conversations going on at the time about how restrictive should we be. And I think this is all something that people can get really energized by and have wonderful discussions about in a university environment.
Mm-hmm. In its first year, you completed UI's administrative intern program. What were some of the things that they had you do that helped you get to where you are?
Sure. That program, it was in its first year, and I was actually working at the College of Business Administration and writing for the Daily Iowan, and that was interesting as well. That was an interesting environment. But I was entrusted by administrators within that college to help them launch a new publication, which was going to be called Iowa Business. And I was going to do the layout on that, some of the writing, and basically be the editor of that. And that was my internship, and that's how we structured it. Mm-hmm. So that is a program I learned a lot from. Everything from how to use a software program to lay out a publication to what I needed to put into that publication, how to work with all the people within the college to come up with ideas that they found would be valuable to the college and to the alumni of the college. So that too, I think particularly as someone who was being extremely vocal in the paper at that same time, it meant a lot to me to have the trust of people in positions as deans of the College of Business to start that and to help them with that. And that was a great privilege, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Would you recommend the program to anyone who's eligible?
Oh, sure. I think anyone who's a young professional at the university who has an opportunity should try to structure an opportunity to get into that program. It's pretty terrific.
What have been the greatest satisfactions of being the Johnson County Recorder?
Well, I left the registrar's office at the University of Iowa to run for recorder, and I did so because I'd always loved politics, because I'd written about politics, and this position came open that matched pretty well with my skill sets. So I thought, this is an office where I could actually do some good work with technology and improve the function of the office, but I'd also become something I had never really imagined I might be, which would be an elected official. And the position is, in fact, partisan, and I knew that I would run personally as a Democrat, and it opened up an amazing array of opportunities. So I've had the opportunity to do everything from speak with and work on behalf of presidential candidates to all the basics of helping people here at home in Johnson County. Our office works with death, marriage, and birth records in addition to all the real estate-related records. And so we actually work with people at some very high-pressure times in their lives. We work with people who are about to be married and are very nervous and excited. We work with people who have just lost someone in their family who need those documents for various reasons. And people who've just had children born, so they're very excited as well. So all those points of contact give me and the staff in my office, who are all so tremendous, an opportunity to help people at really important moments in their lives. I think that's a point of pride for me. It's also very true that when I ran for this office, I never imagined, no one could have imagined that same-sex marriage would become the kind of issue it has become. Nobody within the gay community was advocating terribly loudly for it because everyone saw it as a huge potential landmine. And then there I sat in the recorder's chair, and here it came. Gavin Newsom started giving licenses out. Mayors in New Paltz, New York, and various communities on the eastern seaboard began to give out marriage licenses in protest against what they perceived as unconstitutional laws in their own states. And here I sat, and 54 couples came to my office to request marriage licenses before the Supreme Court ruled. This was in 2004, I believe, in the spring. And there I sat, realizing that I would have to say no to them because I didn't have a court ruling. The law, although I felt in my heart it was not constitutional and could not be defended constitutionally, was there, it was clear. I had sworn to uphold the law, and I had a reactive, potentially very reactive legislature to be concerned about. As an openly gay person, if I had issued those licenses the same way Gavin Newsom did, it would have had a much different impact. And the reaction would have been, I think, dramatic and very quick, and the backlash would probably have resulted in a constitutional amendment that would have prevented the ruling from ever happening. So that day was very difficult. But it also, in many ways, I think, was quite possibly my proudest moment because it was hard to say no to people. I had collegiate deans or associate deans in my office. I had people who worked for city planning. I had University of Iowa students, friends of mine, some of them for many years, people who came from out of state. There was a couple who came from Kentucky, and they came to the window and they put their materials down and said, "We're here to request a license to marry." And to each couple, because I spoke to them all, I went through the process and said that under the advice of the county attorney and in line with my oath of office and the Iowa Code, I am not going to be able to issue you a license to marry. And I constructed, after speaking with my now spouse, Jessica, then partner, Jessica, what I thought of as a ceremony of denial, because I couldn't give them what they were there to get, but I could make darn sure that they had a dignified experience while they were there. And so that's what we did. And the media coverage was stunning, quite frankly. I never thought anything like that would happen. I talked to each couple, and there were those large, fluffy microphones that to me looked like big dust mops, and reporters and big cameras with huge lenses all over the place. And it was the most unusual day my office has ever seen. And when all the couples were gone, all of a sudden it was really quiet. And I thought, I had told people to go to the boardroom because I actually had a speech I wanted to give that I had written, and I thought everyone had left. Almost, and because I heard nothing, you couldn't hear anything from my office to the boardroom. So I went over and I walked into the boardroom and opened the door. And all those big fluffy dust mop microphones were there, and the cameras were there, and all of the couples were there. And they stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And that was a very moving moment. That was really something. After I had said no to all of them, it was clear that they recognized what the situation was and the nature of the day, which was pretty historic. That was an awfully long answer. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you are completely fine. So what kind of challenges do you think Johnson County faces today?
The challenges we face in this county are challenges faced by communities across the country. The economic situation is not good. Many people have feelings of angst that are carrying over into their concept of their government and their government officials. So I think all of us at the county level, like other elected officials, have to be extra careful now. I like to think we always are, but we have to be extra mindful of how people feel, of the fact that people feel threatened and that they could lose important things, whether it be their home, a job, and that we have to really step up and represent for them a reasonable face of government, an effective face of government, a cost-conscious face of government. I mean, I think these things are all very critical right now, and I think we can do that.
How is gender important in your line of work?
Well, gender, I think, is carried with each of us everywhere we go, and so that makes it important in every facet of everyone's life. How people choose to deal with it is probably the most important part of it. And, you know, if people have issues of any particular sort, working for a male or working for a female, then that becomes a problem. And in any entity, you would have to deal with that problem as a manager or as someone just trying to get some good work done. I think as recorder, our office is very much a service-oriented office, so we don't have too many situations come up that pertain specifically to gender-related issues. I know people may say things if they think I'm especially opinionated as a woman. They may not like that. I don't really hear that. And people in the public have a right to any opinion they might have. So it's something that I'm always aware of, and I'm always proud of any accomplishments I might be able to achieve as a woman, because I do think that's important, and I think our community values that too.
You had a lot to do with the University of Iowa, even as a student. What was your most life-changing experience at this university? Well,
a number of things come to mind. One of them was the fact that I worked for my entire undergraduate life as a unit clerk at university hospitals in pediatrics. And that was an amazing thing. The children on our unit were approximately in age range from 3 to about 18 or so. And what is seen at university hospitals is truly an amazing range of situations that are in many ways nothing short of epic in terms of people's lives and how they deal with things. I mean, I don't want to play for melodrama, but we had little children who had various, leukemias, blood diseases, cancers, very unusual diseases that nobody else saw. And it was an amazing thing to go in there every weekend. I had my week scheduled so that I worked 10 hours Saturday and 10 hours Sunday. So I had a half-time job, half-time benefits, and I was there 2 days a week and could focus the rest of the week on studying. So that's what I chose to do. And to get to know the kids was really amazing, and their families. And I think that did change my life, because I saw kids come in, and I saw them leave, and I saw some of them not leave. I saw some of them pass away there. And watching how the staff conducted themselves, from the physicians to nursing staff, was really a wonderful experience. I have a lot of strong feeling for that particular institution. So that was certainly one thing, that job there. I got to study with amazing people. I got to take Chaucer and Dante with Professor Valerie Ligorio, who was an astonishing woman and a true character. And people like Jory Graham came in to just sit in on the Dante class because she was such a legend, and they wanted to see her. And there I was in that class too, having the same experience. So that was wonderful. The friendships I made in the undergraduate workshops in poetry and fiction were terrific. And those experiences and seeing the writers come to town whose books we'd been reading and who we really revered, that was a wonderful experience as well. So those were really pivotal and life-changing things for me, I'd say.
What was your greatest struggle throughout your time at Iowa?
My greatest struggle as a student. Wow. That one I didn't really see coming. I wouldn't say that I struggled personally, and many of the things that have happened that happen in life just by nature, that people are born, they live and they die, happened to me later after I had left the university. So, I've had one particular friend who died of cancer, and he was in the hospital at the university hospitals when he passed away. But I was not a student then, so that was not a real challenge to me. Shortly after I graduated, my father had his first cancer, and he's had 3 cancers. And he's 88 years old now and doing very well, and that was jarring and very, very difficult. But as far as things that happened to me while I was a student, I was fortunate. I didn't have too many traumas or challenges beyond just the day-to-day things. How am I going to get all this done? What if I don't pass this elementary math course I have to take that's driving me crazy, and things of that nature.
Of all your struggles, who was your greatest inspiration?
I always point to my parents when I'm asked about inspiration. My father is an amazing individual. He was born in 1922. He was in World War II, lived through the Great Depression, of course, before that, and has had both a very early heart attack as a young man, under 50, at a time when a lot of young men who had heart attacks didn't get up from them because the medicines were just beginning to be developed that really help people survive heart attack well. He benefited from all of that and lived on to have 3 various kinds of cancer, 2 of them quite dire and grave. And he is alive and kicking. He has a tremendous sense of humor. He is interested in politics and expresses his opinions with vigor, and it's a joy to be around him. So he's a great inspiration for me. My mother also, who passed away in 1995, is a tremendous inspiration for her sense of joy, and she grew up without very much in material terms, and yet always had a great sense of kindness and strength and joy that she provided for all of us to see, and that was a great inspiration. My spouse, Jessica, is currently probably my number one inspiration, just because of all the strengths that she has, and her job is here as a nurse in psychiatry, and the care that she provides to patients, I think, is a tremendous thing. I occasionally have people come up, and I've kind of gotten to a point where I can recognize the look on their face, and of course, there are restrictions on conversation. We don't really talk about very much at all about her job, but I can see people coming up to me with a certain look on their face, and it's a combination of gratitude and very deep emotion. And if I don't have anything else going on with those people, I know that they're going to come up to me and put their hand on my arm and say, "Please tell Jessica, thank you so much for taking care of me." And I have no idea, but that's the kind of impression she makes, and I'm really proud of that.
Do you have any advice for Iowa students or women in general who are afraid to speak their political minds?
I just think the most important thing for a person to do is to stand up and be who they are. wherever they may be. It can be extremely difficult in certain situations, I know, but I also have a lot of faith in people, even people whom I might disagree with, to be able to be tolerant, respectful, and as long as a person provides their own opinion in a respectful manner and tries to give that person on the other side of the point of view whatever dignity they deserve and need to have, then I think these conversations can happen and people can have their say. I was writing controversial columns in a newspaper every week, and I didn't have anybody at the business college or the registrar's office even remotely threaten my job or tell me anything. I got some opinions back sometimes, but you have to be ready for that. And that's, hey, if I've got a forum in a newspaper and I get to spout off in any way I want to, then people have an opportunity to let me know in whatever way they might find how they feel about it too. So I was always fine with anything I heard back on that.
What book would you recommend to the University of Iowa students?
Oh, this is such a question. I went through a whole lot of things, from Edith Wharton, House of Mirth, to Sigrid Undset's trilogy, Kristen Lavrans's Daughter, to, of course, Dante's Divine Comedy. You must read that. Anything by, Iris Murdoch, Flannery O'Connor, Virginia Woolf. I love Virginia Woolf. Robertson Davies, a wonderful Canadian author who wrote a trilogy. One of the books is called Fifth Business. It's a magnificent book. J.D. Salinger, one of my personal heroes as far as his writing, passed away this past year, and I loved his representation of the Glass family, which I know drives some people right up the wall. But I loved Franny and Zoe and Race High the Roof Beam, Carpenters, and Seymour, An Introduction. And I loved a lot of Herman Hesse's books, The Glass Bead Game, Narcissus and Goldman, Damien. Those are all great books. Grab it, read it, enjoy while you can.
Thank you so much for being here with us today on our show.
Thanks, Jessica. I had a great time.
Me too.